What would you like to see change in your life? And what is the biggest obstacle that you're facing now? I run 2 programs called Inner Knowing and Good Life Designed for serious individuals who are ready to take the next step in their personal and professional lives. I will personally be coaching a small group of individuals on tools and frameworks for creating an intuitive practice and for creating self-mastery in their life. As someone who's helped countless entrepreneurs open doors of possibility that they never thought existed, I've seen these strategies transform people's lives. The best part is that you'll 10x your output, unlock your creative genius. I'll work with you weekly to overcome your limiting beliefs. I'll teach you how to create clarity, processes, develop your intuition, and set a new framework on how to live your best life. And you'll get access to guided meditations that I have personally created that are not available anywhere else. We'll create a new self-concept that you can practice moving forward. This method is so effective that even if you don't have a lot of time or if you think you're not ready for a change, these frameworks and methodologies will still work for you. You can check out the link in the show notes to join the waiting list, and you can also check out what some of the previous clients had to say about our time together. It's first come, first serve, and I hope to see you there. Hi, my name is Yasmin Tarehi, and this is Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in wellness, well-being, and spirituality. On today's episode, I'll be speaking with Gurujas, who is a teacher and a musician, the lead singer in the White Sun group. She teaches that Kundalini Yoga is an experientially-based system, a science of joy, fulfillment, and love. She also believes that happiness is a vibrational frequency and can be an enduring state of being. White Sun, for those of you who don't know, is a music group formed in Los Angeles, California in 2015, and the lineup consists of Gurujas, Harijiwan, and Adam Berry. White Sun won a Grammy for their second album in 2017, and on February 5th, 2023, White Sun won a second Grammy for their newest album, Mystic Mirror. I have all of her songs playing all the time on my playlist, so please check it out on Spotify. Just, they're incredible. Welcome to the show, Gurujas.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very grateful. I'm a fan of what you do.
Oh, thank you. So, Gurujas, to kick it off, can you just open it up and tell people who may not know, like, what is Kundalini Yoga?
Well, for me personally, from an eye perspective, it's my daily practice. So it helps me keep my mind and body together. And it's a system that allows us to grow into our potential energetically. So it's really a system of putting more energy into your entire being and then experiencing that higher frequency energy in your life.
Wow. Yeah. And for those who've never experienced Kundalini Yoga, it is a mix of also breath, mantra, movement. And I'm very sensitive to energy. And so I felt it immediately coming to many of your classes in Los Angeles. But I want to switch gears and talk about the voice and specifically the albums that you have created under the group name White Sun. I'm so moved by your level of creativity in the process and also the sound current that's coming from you when you are singing mantra. So can you tell us, what is the key to creating an authentic voice?
That's such a great question. The key to creating an authentic voice. Well, I think the most important thing is that you have to know what your motivator is, and your motivator can't be some kind of outside force. Your motivator has to be an inner force. So in other words, you can't sing or be creative or create art for somebody else, and you can't make a song that you think somebody else would like to hear. You have to do it for you. You really don't have any other choice. And music that's made to satisfy some kind of outer requirements of somebody else or some company or some audience that you think you have or want to have, that type of music doesn't really last. And the music that I think lasts a long time and has the biggest impact is music that the artist made for themselves because they had to make it and it came from their hearts. So you have to make something that makes you happy, something that you love, something that moves your energy. And then it will make somebody else happy and somebody else will love it and it will move their energy. But it has to come from you first.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I love that so much because I feel like oftentimes when we create, we look at the world around us and that informs our creativity rather than this creativity that you're talking about comes from this heart space. And so it feels like there's just such a primordial wisdom and creativity that's unmatched, right? And that, like you said, when people listen
Yeah.
to it, they drop into their hearts, which there's a lot of actually evidence now showing that the heart intelligence is actually much greater than the mind intelligence. So you have so many different types of songs. How do you decide what you want to sing? And, are there different types of ways that you kind of, melodies or kind of ways that you want to show up as a singer? I'm just curious. I know what is your
Mhm.
process like when you decide what to put together?
It really goes by feel. That's a luxury that I have in the creative world, right? Is that you can do things just purely by feel. And maybe people in other industries would say the same thing. I wouldn't know, not being a part of those other industries. But I feel very fortunate to be able to navigate with really my intuition and my feeling inside of me. And that's how we will work with other people, build a team, find other musicians. And that's where one note leads to the next note, or one lyric leads to the next lyric. It's just all kind of by feel. And I can give you an example. Right now, we're working on our next album, and we have a lot of songs that we're looking at to put on this album, but we're going to narrow it down and we're going to eliminate certain songs. And that's just going to be by feel. What do we feel is the strongest? What do we feel is the most authentic? And so when I sit down to write a song, hopefully I have the luxury of just feeling a song coming through and I sit down and I want to write it. But sometimes the song needs to be written and it needs to be written by a certain time. And it all kind of starts with a keyboard. So I take a keyboard and I just kind of, if I really don't know where to go, if I really I'm starting from nothing, I'll just kind of play each note or play around with the scale and until I play or I hear a chord or I hear a note that I want to use, and it's a really fun process for me because I get to just kind of feel it. So where that's led us has been really special. What we're doing, we have Harijiwan in the band playing the gong, and we have Adam, and we have me, and we're creating vibrational frequencies in the songs that we know have a special impact on the patterns that we hold inside of our bodies and brains. And so when I say we go by feel, there's a feel and a goal to create a vibrational frequency that is the highest that we're able to create. I sort of see my goal is to bring a sound to this earth and to the people of this earth. And if I can do that, and if I can do that in an impactful, broad way, then I'll be, absolutely overjoyed with satisfaction. There's no word for that. Just astonishingly happy. Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. Yeah. And I think, this idea of like frequency really being what we're all actually being moved by energetically. As someone was saying the other day, it's not really about like what you're saying. It's like the frequency that you're emitting when you're saying it that people actually are impacted by. And there's actually a lot
Yes.
of studies now about like being entrained by other people, right? We entrain to each other's nervous systems. We even entrain to, by the way, our income bracket.
Wow.
Isn't
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
wild? So
Makes total sense to me.
right, yeah, and so frequency, the way that our sound current carries, also is in training to everyone. So I love that you are bringing this incredibly high frequency vibe. And I was telling you the other day that I have your mantras like playing all over, all these songs playing all over my
Thank
apartment.
you. Thank you for doing that. Thank you.
And people always comment, they're like, wow, there's just such a high vibe in here. It's just so sweet. So I want to also, just thinking back to, I went back and I watched the acceptance speech of one of the Grammys that you won, and it was so sweet. I think you said, we just want to make this world a better place. And I was just so moved by the genuineness of that comment, like just how much you care about the collective. And how it's because I think most people when going back to this creative process are oftentimes focused on what it can do for them. But I sort of feel like the way that you've been creating has been like, what can this do for the collective? And I just wanted to acknowledge that. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. It is sort of just how I'm built, that I need to understand inside of myself that what I'm doing is contributing to someone else's life. And there's countless ways to contribute to other people's lives. So I think a lot of artists are doing that, or all of them are doing that. But speaking for myself, I'll give you an example of something that just sort of made me want to write 1,000 more songs. So there was a mother that I was talking to. The kids tend to be more sensitive than adults. These kids that are on the planet right now, they're more sensitive and they're more in tune, I would say. They sort of are a different species of humanity in some ways, with their extreme powers of intuition and sensitivity and intelligence and frequency. So they respond a lot to the music. And one of the mothers told me, she said, we tried everything on our son because he had really bad psoriasis, like psoriasis so bad that it actually, the first time I met the boy, he was covered in Band-Aids. And a lot of times little kids like Band-Aids, they just like them. So they want to have their box of Band-Aids and they want any excuse to put the Band-Aids on their body. So I thought that he was playing a game, like all the bandages covering him. I thought that was him playing with the bandages, but it wasn't. It was really, really bad psoriasis, and there were sores all over his body. And they had tried everything, and they had a lot of resources, so many doctors, Zoom calls with doctors across the world when the local doctors couldn't help, and all kinds of medicine. And they said that they would spend a couple hours during the day changing the bandages. Just horrible, just horrible. And this little boy was 3 when I met him. But the mother started to play one of our songs. In her case, she played Boat to Cut Him. And the reason why she played it is because her son liked it. There wasn't any other reason. She was playing it for him because he liked it. It's not that she was playing it for him because she wanted to heal his skin condition, or she knew what Boat to Cut Him meant or what it does. She didn't know any of that. He would just request it all the time once she discovered it. So she started playing it for him, and his psoriasis went away. And it's certainly not my opinion that the mantra made the psoriasis go away. It was her opinion. She said, I know that it was the song. I know that it was the song that I played for him that made it go away, because as he would lay down on the couch and ask to listen, he would get in the car and ask to listen, and it started to heal him. And so if we explain it in terms that are more familiar to us, what happened? Well, everything is held in patterns throughout the body. We have neuron patterns. There's neurons in the gut. There's neurons in the brain. There's patterns held in peptides. The peptides dock onto the cells. The glands create patterns as they pump hormones through the body and so on. And so these patterns, they all have frequencies, and the frequencies are created by us, the generator of these patterns. So if you put a new pattern into the body, the old patterns are corrected. Or if you put a positive pattern into the body, the one that was holding the psoriasis can maybe start to rewire itself. And so in this case, their neural nets in this boy's brain that were holding the psoriasis, they were rewired with a higher frequency of this song, and the problem went away, because we treated the cause of the problem instead of treating the problem itself. And this went on outside my awareness, right? I didn't make that song to treat psoriasis. Not in my wildest dreams did I think I had any relation to psoriasis, but in this case it did. And you could say that it's a coincidence, and I wouldn't disagree with you because I don't know. But then how do you explain the other 100 stories that I have? Of people telling me the same thing over and over again, of these examples of somebody healing her shoulder and she didn't need surgery that was scheduled, somebody experiencing paralysis and the doctors couldn't explain why she was healed and walked out of the hospital. I mean, I have so many stories like this. And I think it's important that we have our own experience. you shared that you play the mantras in your apartment. And that's because you have on some level an experience that they have created a positive change for you or a positive contribution to your life in some way. So I always tell people, just give it a try. Um, and if you don't like it, who cares? It's not a big deal. Try it and see if it does something for you. Play it for, a week or two and just play it on repeat 24/7 and see if it does something for you. And if it doesn't, it's fine if for something not to be your cup of tea. But if it does, there's no really limit to what can happen. We're still trying to understand the stories that people are telling us. And science is still trying to understand exactly the impact sound has on our bodies. And we have a couple universities in LA, and including a neuropsychiatric hospital that has worked with our music. And now we're trying to put that frequency into songs that are in other languages, because I love singing in other languages. We have songs in Spanish, and our next album's going to be in Spanish. We sing in ancient languages, and so English language, of course. And so we want to put these frequencies into other languages as well, because we want to really honor all people.
Wow. Gurujas, that's amazing. And I've seen, a lot of studies as well about science seems like it still has some, needs to catch up on some of the ways that sound can heal. But I've seen many studies come out, mantra being also a way to change the neural networks in the brain.
Yeah.
And we've had a couple people on the show who have PhDs in sound, binaural beats, all these kind of different sound modalities. And the research
Wow.
coming out has been really fascinating. I'm now curious, because I have a Middle Eastern background. I'm would you ever put it in an Arabic song?
I would be honored. My family is Arabic, actually. My sister is married to a man who is half Iranian and half sorry, why am I blanking? Jordanian, and he speaks Arabic and he speaks Farsi, but I think more Arabic. And my nephews speak Arabic,
Oh,
so I would
wow.
love, yeah, I would love to record something in Arabic. I would love it. As soon as maybe I can ask him to teach me.
Amazing. Yeah, there's this really cool thing in Arabic. I forget the exact name, but it's a yululate. It's kind of it's a long I want to say ululation, but that's not the right word. I'll have to remind myself what the name is, and I'll send it to you. But
Yeah.
so I want to talk a little bit about creating an authentic voice for people listening who may struggle with being able to speak their truth, or who might feel, blocked in their throats. Also, a lot of women, I've just noticed generally that I think mainstream society, I think just all this just intergenerational trauma of speaking the truth as a woman, I think has been kind of a pervasive theme in culture. So I'm curious, how do you teach people to really tap into creating an authentic voice? And I know that you taught a vocal lab recently. I did not,
Yeah.
fortunately I couldn't join, but I'm super curious, what are some maybe a couple things we could do to tap in?
I think that's a really important question. When we talk about the neural nets, just to carry that over, a lot of the patterns that we hold in our brains and bodies and our systems are a result of outside forces. So we kind of run programs in our bodies. We collected a lot of these programs in the womb, and then we collect more from peers and society and extended family and caregivers and school and teachers and so on and so forth. So a lot of these patterns, they don't really belong to us. In a lot of ways, they sort of came we arrived under the influence of these patterns. And we want to make sure that whenever we're using our voice, that it is our voice, and that we're not a parrot for something that was installed in us somewhere along the way. And that's a tricky thing. That's a very tricky thing. But it starts with the awareness that it could be happening. And then you can kind of navigate from there. You need to be a sovereign being. We need to be sort of sovereign, independent, strong people. And we can't buy somebody else's version of reality, especially if their version of reality makes us feel bad or weak or powerless in any way. And one thing that I personally am concerned about is a pattern program being run on the planet Earth right now, where a lot of people are looking at themselves in the mirror and they feel bad about the image that they see reflected back to them. And I'm very concerned about this because there's no justification for feeling weak or negative about who you are or how you were born. It's not okay. We should feel empowered. We should feel like powerful people. We should feel like influential people. We should feel happy and loving and like we have something to contribute to the planet Earth. And if we are feeling negative about ourselves in any way, including, viewing the world as an adversarial place, if there's any pattern that we're running inside our mind body system that makes us feel bad, it's the wrong pattern because it's away from love. We have two forces on the planet Earth. One is fear and one is love. And all negative things come from fear and all positive things come from love. So if you're feeling positive, you're on the love side. And if you're feeling negative, you're on the fear side. And it's not that negativity doesn't exist. So we would never ask somebody, ignore the negativity in the world, pretend it's not there. Of course it's there, but get on the other side of it. Get on the side that makes you feel empowered and happy and blissful, because that's the life you deserve to live. And you don't want to come to the end of your life and say, I spent decades feeling disappointed, powerless, downtrodden. That's a horrible way to live. And yet it's a very pervasive program right now. People feel bad because of their gender or the color of their skin or their economic status or their religion, or on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And this is not a way to live a life. This is not a fulfilling life. This is not a happy life. If we're constantly focused on these things, it creates a feeling of powerlessness within ourselves. So it's not that negativity doesn't exist. Of course it exists. But what are you going to choose to amplify? And what are you going to choose to experience? The happiest people on the planet Earth, there's an output of effort. And then there's also an output of reward. And that effort has to be a positive effort to try to build something. So finding your authentic voice is making sure that you're not regurgitating something that you were taught or given or programmed into by some outer force, especially if that outer force is not on the love side of the polarity. It's like sometimes I use the example of like a parrot. So it's sort of silly. It's silly. I know it's silly, but at least it illustrates the point. So if you have a parrot as a pet and you want to train that parrot to say something, you just tell them over and over the same thing day after day after day. And when you first tell them, you tell the parrot to say hi. You first tell them, they just look at you and nothing happens. And then you tell them again and again and nothing happens. But over time, the parrot starts to say hi back. And it's not that the parrot knows what it means, and it's not that the parrot knows where it even came from necessarily, but they're saying it back because they've heard it so many times. And I don't want people to say things back that they've heard so many times when it makes them feel powerless and negative, right? Say things that make you feel good. And then if you feel good, that good feeling is going to go into your glandular system, into your neural nets, into your hormones, into your peptides, and those peptides dock onto your cells, change the nucleus of the cells in your body themselves, the smallest unit of consciousness. And then you have a good feeling because you chose it. And your cells vibrate with that feeling. And now you have a different life, a happier, more fulfilled life. And you don't let the outside forces, whatever's happening in the environment, you don't let it get you down. So this is why we're in a planet right now with a lot of unhappy people doing a lot of negative things. And there's so many ways we can put it. We can get very specific or we can get very general, but we at least know that we're going in the wrong direction because we're on a planet right now that is less happy, less fulfilled, less prosperous, more angry, and more divided than ever before. So whatever we're trying, it's not working. We need to try something else. And so I think if you want to try if you want to be authentic, find your authentic voice, make sure it's your voice first. Just kind of have that idea in your consciousness that you're not going to regurgitate something you've been told. Examine what you've been told and feel in your heart whether it's right or wrong. Does it make you feel love? If not, then whoever is, dishing out the negative programming, that person's not someone that you should listen to. That person's somebody that you should avoid because it's making you feel bad. So anyway, I think that being sovereign and independent comes first, and then you find your own voice, and you make sure that it's unique.
Wow. So I want to go back to this idea of what makes you feel loving and what makes you feel love in your body versus what makes you feel kind of this contractive energy. Because I think a lot of people are sort of unconscious about, sort of being unconscious
of course.
Right. And so, if I was, and I'm just like really thinking about our audience here, the people listening in, who might not know like how to start. Right. And so,
Sure.
looking at examining their beliefs and like looking at their surroundings and really kind of connecting with their body. But what's like one thing, like if someone was coming, straight from a completely different, worldview, what would be like the first thing that they could do today to start shifting their, their energy, even if it's something very, simple, like putting on, new music, but and also I'm curious because I think this part is important. What you pay attention to, right? You get more of, and so what do you sort of pay attention to, Gurujas? Because that could be like a good proxy for others. Like do you watch movies? I mean, I think that there's just so much. There's so much programming happening all the time, social media and like film and TV and So yeah, I'm curious. Like, how do you stay kind of grounded in your own authentic voice?
Yeah, wow, that's such a good question. And also, I would say that sometimes the most simple things are also the most powerful. And it's almost deceptive because there's so much power in these very, very simple things. And it's easy to overlook the simple teachings because we go, oh, well, it must be, it's simple, so it must be small, but it's huge. And one of the most powerful ways to get on that current of love and to get on that current of happiness is gratitude. And this is a very simple thing, but like I said, because of its simplicity, we can easily overlook it. And every night before bed, I have a practice in the household that I'll do gratitude. We all do gratitude before bed, which is just saying some things that we're grateful for, just out loud. What are we grateful for? And it puts you on the positive current of the polarity. So gratitude is one of those things that's instant. If you can use gratitude to activate a positive force, then you go into the love frequency right away. The things that we're not grateful for, and I'm pausing there so that we really understand this, the things that we're not grateful for, they can bring us very easily into a place of pain. So if we have something in our lives that we specifically don't feel grateful for, then what's the opposite of gratitude is really resentment, right? So we're not grateful for this thing, so therefore it activates a negative force. So if you want to get on the positive polarity of your life and of the experience you have inside your own life, it's really important to be grateful for what you have. And I knew I admire him so much. He was homeless when I met him, but he very quickly was able to move into his friend's house and sleep on her floor. And I'm just going to fast forward in his story. He's very successful now, very, very, very successful, well-known, runs his own business, travels the world, is wealthy, is happy, has everything that any of us could want. And he told me out of his mouth, he goes, this started with gratitude. I was grateful that I had that floor to sleep on. I was so grateful. He goes, then one day someone gave me a bicycle and I was overcome with gratitude that I didn't have to walk anymore. And in his life, he very, very much experienced gratitude as a stepping stone to the next best thing. And it really got him where he wanted to go. So sometimes it's helpful even to make a list. So you start with a notebook and a pen, because it's just a notebook and pen I kind of like because it's never going to get deleted or have some kind of like data issue or, your phone dies and you can't access your list or you update the operating system and like, where did it go? So if you just get like a notebook and a pen and write down the things that you're grateful for, and then every day just add on to it. It's a way of activating a very positive force in your life. And it's not only a start, it's not only to just jumpstart it. I mean, it's something you can do your entire life. Is just focus on the right stuff. Like you said, Yasmin, if we focus on whatever we focus on gets bigger. If you and I wanted to all day talk about the city we live in, right? We live in Los Angeles. You and me could talk about Los Angeles all day and how it's run and how city council is and where city hall. We could just get really, really we just talk about Los Angeles all day long. And then we'd be thinking about Los Angeles all day long because that's all we're talking about, right? And then our whole life becomes about Los Angeles because we talk about it today, we talk about it tomorrow, and then we find other people that want to talk about it with us. And then we just get really into the city that we live in. It consumes us. And that's with anything. If you are focused on something, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So one thing that we found is not effective is focusing on painful things that make you feel weak. If you focus and talk about painful things that make you feel weak, they're going to get bigger and you're going to feel weaker. So we want to be really cognizant of where we're directing the mind. And if we really understood how powerful we are, I think this concept would be easier to digest and understand and implement, right? If we acknowledge that we're extremely powerful people, that we have an immense amount of creative potential. You talked about the heart center earlier, Yasmin, and the power of the heart. If we really acknowledge who we are and the infinite potential that we have, then we know it's very important to direct our energy because energy is power. And whatever we're giving our power to, we're feeding and making it bigger. So focus on the right stuff. And the Tibetans have a saying that, or it was said, I think, of the Tibetan system, that they have an understanding of cause and effect finer than the grains of sand. So it's like cause and effect, finer than the grains of sand. So anything that we do, it has a ripple. It creates a ripple. So use the wrong language, it creates the wrong ripple for you. Use the right language, it creates a positive ripple for you. You direct the mind to a painful place, the pain follows. You direct the mind to a positive, happy, loving place, happiness and love follow. So it's very simple. You asked for something simple. It's very simple. Let's just be grateful. Let's just think of some things we can be grateful for. And then like a muscle that you start to build strength in, it gets easier and easier. And all of a sudden you can be grateful for everything. You can be grateful for your past because it led you here. You can be grateful for your future. You can be grateful for what you have. You can be grateful for people who you perceived treated you wrong because you needed them to treat you wrong. So you could learn certain things and we're grateful for the lessons. I mean, on and on and on and on. You're just like flexing a muscle. You get better and better at it and you build the positivity.
Wow. Gurujas, thank you so much for that reminder. It's a long time ago, I used to do these like 5-minute journals of, the gratitude journal every night. And I stopped it for like a couple of years now. And I'm like, after this conversation, I'm going to bring it back. So I just, because it's just so easy to shift your energetic state when you shift into this idea of gratitude. Like, of course, there's so many things to be appreciative of, even just being alive and also being healthy, right? Because I think everyone cares so much about so many things until their health deteriorates. Then that's the most important thing. So just that alone, right? Just like, hey, I'm healthy and I'm not fighting for my life right now.
Yeah, like, so true.
So
that's really important.
Yeah, totally. So Gurujas, what are some of the changes that you've seen people experience when doing Kundalini Yoga and also, from a vocal perspective, from even like a voice perspective? Like, what have you seen?
That's such a vast question, a very good question and very vast. Let me think about that. I mean, I've seen people really just become happier. And I'm putting things in simple terms because it makes me feel good to think about things in a simple way because really the world is very simple. We come here with a certain destiny and a certain fate. And there's these two paths that we have before us. One is destiny, one is fate. We all kind of understand what that means, right? One is a higher path, and one is sort of a lower, more painful path. And I think what the Kundalini does is it allows us to really achieve what we came here to achieve and then some. And the feeling of love and satisfaction and fulfillment that follows a person on their destiny path is something that everyone deserves. Everyone deserves that feeling of really feeling like you've made an impact, like you've come down here and you've done what you came to do. And Kundalini puts you on the positive side, that love side. And I would say that love side is the destiny side of things. And when we go to that fate side, we can easily go into the pain side of things, the fear side of things. And no one deserves that. So whether you're cut out for Kundalini or not, whether you like it or you like doing something else, it's fine. But if you do feel drawn to Kundalini, we know that it can help raise your vibration. And if our vibration is raised, we feel better. So there's lots of different ways to do it, but the way that Yasmin and I know has been very effective for us personally is trying this Kundalini Yoga, which raises the consciousness.
Yes.
So yeah, for that reason, I recommend it. And I recommend if you don't want to do the yoga, it's perfectly fine. Try playing a mantra. If you don't want to try playing a mantra, it's perfectly fine. Try the gratitude. And if you don't want to try the gratitude, it's okay. We have another thing you could try. You could inhale and mentally chant victory, and then exhale. So you just inhale, say the word victory, and exhale. Victory has a certain nod, it has a certain sound current to it that sends a positive vibration through the body. So there's something for everyone. But I think what we want to do is just find the motivation inside of ourselves that we're going to do something today that's better than what we did yesterday. And tomorrow we're going to do something that's better than what we did today. And you're doing it really for yourself. It's a beautiful, positive, loving way of being selfish. Because it's going to reverberate out into the world and help all people. And this is how we raise the vibrational frequency of the planet. We got into a little bit of trouble in 2020, and not just with COVID, with a huge amount of things, a laundry list of things. And the vibration of the planet had to frequency match these things, right? And in a way, the vibration of the planet allowed it to happen. So if people start vibrating at a higher frequency, if they start putting more love into the world, gratitude into the world, fulfillment, their own soul fulfillment, if they start seeing themselves in a way that gives them strength instead of seeing themselves in a way that gives them weakness, this has a ripple effect, and we change the frequency down here. And then we all live in a better place. So it sounds simple because it is. It really is simple. Don't buy into someone else's version of reality that takes you in the wrong direction, in the direction of feeling negative or angry.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so grateful to have found Kundalini Yoga. And I don't know if you know the origin story, but we had Kim Kranz on the show about a year ago now. And I'm clairaudient, so I can actually hear, I get downloads all the time. And I heard this message to ask her where she lived, which is like something I've never done in 140 episodes. Never asked my guest that question. So I did. I said, and I even looked it up online before the show. I was like, but she lives in Portland. Like that's what it said. And then I found out that she lived in Los Angeles. And then it was like, I think the follow-up question was like, well, what do you do, most of your time? What do you spend a lot of time doing? And she mentioned Kundalini Yoga because she'd also mentioned it on the interview. And that's how I found it. And I'm so grateful that I did, because it has been such a profound journey of coming back to self. And it also integrates so many different types of modalities, in my opinion, that I've experienced into one modality. Like that just, it's just very comprehensive. So, and yeah, I started to notice just how different I felt after every class. And I'll be honest, like I think when most people try it, like it is uncomfortable because you're sitting in yourself, and a lot of the movements are like closing the eyes, and so you have nowhere to hide, right? You just have to kind of sit with self.
Yeah,
So it's so
true.
so powerful.
Well, one of the things I hear, just one thing to add to that. One reason, the most common reason that people give me that they're hesitant to try Kundalini is because they're not flexible. I heard this last night with a musician that I was working with. I hear this like constantly, like I would try it, but I'm not flexible. So I just want to say to your audience, Yasmin, that actually Kundalini doesn't have anything to do with flexibility. So I just want you guys to know that if there's anyone listening to this who's like, I would try it, but I'm not flexible, you can do it sitting in a chair. So if you don't want to try it for other reasons, fine, but flexibility shouldn't be one of them.
That's so funny. So I'm not super flexible either. So that's hysterical. And so Gurujas, what about what attracted you to this space? What was your journey towards discovering this work? And, I'm just curious, how did you come to becoming a Kundalini teacher?
Well, I found a teacher. So that's 100% what started it. And that's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth reason why. There's no other reason. So I found my teacher, and then, everything else started to unfold. I don't say that as often as I used to, because I realized that we don't really have a concept anymore of what a teacher is. But a teacher is a guide, and finding an authentic teacher is precious and nearly impossible. So that was my path, is that I found that, and that's why I have White Sun, that's why I have Kundalini, and so on. But it's a bit of a foreign concept to us these days. It's not really known what that is or means anymore on this, in this time and space.
I get that. Amazing that you found your teacher. I feel like that's what a gift to be able to have that experience. Yeah.
Thank you.
Gurujas, what about the things that may have surprised you the most on your journey, looking back, especially when it comes to, White Sun and some of the voice, work that you've done with regards to voice? What has surprised you the most?
Wow, I love that question. I mean, wow. So I think I would come back to that idea of those two paths. You can go left or you can go right, you can go fate or you can go destiny. And kind of in the spiritual systems, they use the word dharma and karma. And so when we talk about cause and effect, and the Tibetans having an understanding finer than the grains of sand of cause and effect, it's really karma that we're talking about, which is cause and effect, and dharma, which is the destiny path. And in my case, I see such a huge gulf between those two sides. It's like when you're driving, let's say if you've ever driven down the highway and you've missed your exit or something and you didn't realize it. Well, it's before you know it, you've gone very, very far in the wrong direction. And let's say you didn't realize it for hours, or you've gone hours out of your way. And if you extend that to days or to weeks to months to years, all of a sudden you're nowhere close to where you wanted to go, and it's almost impossible to go back. So I kind of look at my life in those terms. I could have gone the fate path, but I went the destiny path, and that's the most astonishing thing to me. I mean, that's that's the miracle that I've seen, is my own miracle in my own life of being able to choose one direction or the other, and how I can see very clearly where each direction would lead. And when I say very clearly, I mean with the somewhat limited understanding, right? Of I don't have some kind of omniscience. I want to put that out there. It's but my limited understanding and my human mind and body, that I know that these two directions are very different.
Right. Yeah.
And to me, that feels like a miracle.
And what about folks who may have inspired you on this path? Like, who do you look up to today? And what inspires you about them?
Well, besides my teacher, who I've been abundantly clear about. But besides that, I look at anyone who's created an impact on the planet Earth, and I think that that's incredible. And the problem that I see is that some people, I was talking to somebody recently, and he felt that he wasn't successful because he didn't have a certain level of fame or a certain level of money. And I just couldn't understand this. I talked to him for a long time, and I said, "But look at what you did. Look at all the people you've affected. They might not know who you are, but because of the nature of your art, he's a musician too. Because of the nature of your art, you have millions and millions of people feeling your vibrational frequency." And I couldn't believe that he felt that he had been some kind of like failure or something, because he was using these measures of these sort of more societal measures of what success is. And I said, well, at the end of your life, you're going to come to the end of your life, and it doesn't matter what plaques are on your wall. It matters what you did, who you helped, who you touched. And you helped hundreds of millions of people. You touched them, with your creativity and your love and your art. So he's the type of person where you have heard him, but you don't know his name. This happens, in the music industry. But again, at the end of your life, nobody cares who knew your name. They care about what you did. What did you do down here that uplifted the energy? What did you do that had an impact? What did you do that helped people? And if you changed one life, that's enough. So the people that I admire are the people who came down here and had an impact. And the people that came down here and did what they were supposed to do, even if it's something different than what I'm supposed to do. My path is very clear to me. But what about somebody like Steve Jobs? He came down here and he created Apple computers. He created iPhones and laptops, and that's what he did. And that was his path, but he did a brilliant job at it. If he hadn't come down, we wouldn't have had this whole civilization called Apple, right? So he completed his destiny in a very clear way, and he even died at a youngish age because he was finished so early with what he came to do. So, people who they know what they're supposed to do and they do it. I really admire somebody with that type of discipline and that type of drive and determination. And anybody that has an impact, even if you don't know their name. In fact, most people, you don't know their name, who are out there helping people. I remember there was this movie, I think it's about, I don't know what it's called. Maybe it's called Kumbh Mela. It's some movie. But there was a yogi in this movie who'd been holding his arm up, which was a mudra. It's a meditative mudra. So he was in meditation, and this particular meditation required the arm to go straight above his head with his elbow locked and stuff. And he held that mudra for, I don't know, 10 years, or at the time the movie was made. And this man, we only know who he is because he was in a movie, but most of your listeners won't know what I'm talking about. But for him, he's holding a vibrational frequency for the planet, and that vibrational frequency is helping transmit a positive energy over the earth. So that's his contribution. And there's not going to be, I doubt there's going to be movies and books made about him. And I'm sure that he is a man of very humble means and so on, but he's doing what he came here to do. That's really beautiful. That's a really beautiful thing, to just do what you need to do. Be determined to do it no matter what, and don't let your feelings get in the way, and don't let logic and reason get in the way. Just do what you're supposed to do. I think that discipline's really beautiful. I admire people that are very disciplined in that way.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so motivating. I think for people listening to, just the idea of commitment, right, to something, commitment to a higher purpose. I always ask people like, what do you want at the end of your life? And it's interesting to notice like whether people think about the collective and what they're willing to give, to people, versus those who are like, this is what I want to, keep and acquire. And it's just it's a very different way of operating through life, and so I appreciate that. And Gurujas, what is like the main takeaway? What do you want to tell our listeners about their wellness and well-being? Like after everything we've discussed, what would be like your call to action for people listening in?
I would just say, make the choice to have a happy life and be ruthlessly committed to that choice. And make sure that you wake up every day and you get on the positive current, and instead of being led down some kind of negative road. Just be determined and ruthless and disciplined in your commitment to your own happiness.
I love that. I love that. And where can people find you? Where can they find White Sun? What's like the best, website or resource that you can point folks to?
Whitesun.com has our music, and you can stream it anywhere. And what I would recommend is just listen to what we have out there and pick something that you like. Hopefully you like something. Pick something that you like and give it a listen, and then listen to it for a long time. We always recommend, Yasmin's heard this a million times, we always recommend to find a device in your house, an old phone or an old iPod if you have one of those, or if you've ever heard of those, or like a speaker. I get these speakers off of Amazon for $20, but just like play something and just let it go and play it at a low volume and see how the positive frequency starts to affect things for you. That's what I would recommend. So find something on whatever streaming service you use and give it a try.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Gurujas. This has been so delightful, and I feel so inspired and joyful after this conversation.
Thank you, Yasmin. You're amazing. It's just an honor to be here with you. It really is. I admire what you've done.
Oh, thank you so much, Gurujas. That means so much to me. As we spoke about earlier, these things are oftentimes labors of just love.
Yes.
So for our audience, thanks for joining and for listening. In this episode, we learned about White Sun and the ancient technology of sound and frequency with Gurujas. You can tune into Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in wellness, well-being, and spirituality. Thanks again.